Okay. All right. What's going on, family? Just give me a second. Let me just share this link real quick. Let's see. Peace and shalom. Peace and shalom. I'm going to give it a second. I don't know why this is showing as disabled again. I have no clue what that's about. Let me check here. Let's see what's going on. Let's mute this. I'm just going to have to check it here. All right, let me share this. Why does it keep doing this? This is really crazy. All right, so give me a second, fam. I'm trying to get this started over here. Hold on one second. All right, so y'all should be able to hear me now. I was trying to get some stuff set up. All right, I think it should be good right now. So I want to say peace and shalom, family. What's going on? Thank you for tuning in. This is the Cancel Halloween special, 10/31/19. This is 11 o'clock. So from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m., it's believed to be the high time for Halloween. And we can get into esoteric stuff. Some stuff can be validated. Some stuff will be kind of speculation. I don't like to get too heavy into speculation unless I have enough detailed points to kind of validate it. But I've spoke heavily on Halloween in the past. Matter of fact, I'm going to drop a link to a previous session that I did on there if you're interested, where I say, should some Christians celebrate Halloween? Yes, some Christians should celebrate Halloween. And that's what I put forth before. Christians would be like, oh, what are you talking about? That we should celebrate Halloween, because some of them do it already. But I was being very specific with a specific ethnic group that identifies Christian, that they should be keeping and celebrating Halloween because it's part of their cultural tradition, right? So what I'm going to do is going to put that in there. I go into the festival of Samhain, and what Samhain means. Really can mean summer's end, but it was also personified as a deity as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and drop that there. I released that back in 2 years ago in 2017, but I'm gonna share in the link for y'all. So y'all can check it out. I don't know what's going on with my session this time because it's not showing my chat session in my interface for the live stream, but I mean, it's all good. I'm just gonna have to go back and forth, 2 different windows, but it's all good. It's all good. So here's a link there if you want to go ahead and check that out. If you want to get more information on that, you get some shout outs to people that's in the chat. Shalom to S. McGee, Shama Talmud in the building, J. Lockhart 25, my brother Brian Gaither in the building, Wendell Cummings, Deshaun Calvin, Kadar, Scales, Ace, Get Wise, Lyles Music, Vanessa Satterwhite, Jarvis Jenkins. Yes. Well, I put the post up in the community section of YouTube where I was explaining that I would be going live tonight. Shout out to my sister 916 Shan in the building as well. Y'all definitely hit one if the audio and video's on point. Hit 1 if the audio and video's on point. Shout out to Jay Grant. What's going on? Truth Seeker in the building. What's going on? Cameron Branch, Arrowhead Demon Sniper. What's going on, man? Make sure you share this link. Bring your family in. Aldrich Dow, Katriel Ben Yisrael. All right. So you're saying everything sounds good, which is interesting because I was having issues with this mic before, but I guess everything is sounding good to y'all now. So that's really good. That's really good. Shout out to my brother Jetson Silencio in the building. Adaya Yisrael, Claude Lass, Subtle Dove. What's going on, family? Yahuda Dawid in the building. That's what I'm talking about. All right, we're about to get started in 1 second. So what I want to do is go into the history of the jack-o'-lantern. So we can get some information to know who Stingy Jack is, because this comes from an Irish myth about a character named Stingy Jack, right? It's interesting because even the tradition of jack-o'-lantern initially did not begin with pumpkins, right? That was actually what's called syncretism that occurred where one part of the cultural or customary practice transformed when the group that kept that tradition migrated to another region, right? So it was really made out of turnips and some other items, but we're going to get into that in 1 second. Let me just check to make sure. Yeah. So we're on the Siren X. Okay. All right. I'm hoping the mic is on point. Let me know. Shout out to my brother Brian Gaither for the donation. I appreciate that. That's my brother right there, one of my right hands right there. Keeping him in prayer as well. So you'll make sure you pray for my brother as well. He said trick or treat LOL for the lecture. Shout out to Noelle Ya in the building. Nisi's PCs, Donovan and Yahoo Yashar L Casco. What's going on? Brother Benny Yasharala Wheat. What's going on? I appreciate y'all for joining in. All right. So again, like I said, y'all can share this link. Y'all said the mic sounds good. That's great. I want to make sure that it's not capturing any ambient noise. If you only hear me clearly, let me know, because that's the purpose of me getting this expensive mic that I've had for some time now and has been given static for some weird reason. The last couple of times I was using it, but I'm glad it's working now. Shout out to my brother Yesha Moore in the building. So let me know if it's picking everything up. All right. All right. So let's get started, family. Now, you already know how we get down here, right? Oh, shout out to X. Please keep speaking truth. My husband's Breakfast Club is now listening to your lectures. Wow. All praise to the Most High. I'm truly grateful and honored to hear that. So again, we're gonna make sure we keep it clean, but we're gonna be passionate. We're gonna be fiery. We're not gonna have any vulgarity, no disrespect. We're not doing any of that here. You know what I'm saying? So this content can be played anywhere, and it is being played anywhere and everywhere. You know what I'm saying? People have told me that their children, teenagers, sit together and watch this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I try to keep everybody in mind when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to ensure that the content is something that's palatable to, different people of different flavors of different backgrounds. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Shout out to my brother Justin Alexander Pereira in the building, Kendrick Black, Yala Med 77. So let's get into it right now. I was going to start with getting right into the Stingy Jack-o'-lantern, Irish Smith. I'm going to get that to one second, but I recently had a discussion with a Christian apologist by the name of Brother Jay. Okay. Shout out to Sean Fleming and 24 Dread in the building. It was really interesting. He's a Christian apologist, right? He used to be part of IUIC. Prior to that, he said he was part of a Messianic Judaism group. Prior to that, he said he was just in a Christian group, right? So he had these evolutions. Now he's just a Christian, right? But that discussion I had with him was interesting. So I was watching a podcast, not actually a podcast, a YouTube live stream, Brother Berean TV. Shout out to Berean TV. And after that stream ended, it suggested Brother Jay's podcast to me, right? So I checked it out. Shout out to Sean Fleming's Mr. E's Remedy. Sean Fleming, you can put the link in the chat if you want. So you people can patronize your business. You have pretty good products there, so I appreciate that. Shout out to B Banks. What's going on, B Banks? How you doing? Dimitri Elder in the building. So me and him was talking, and I try to take it easy with Christian apologists that I realize is not that deep. You know what I'm saying? And I realized that he's aware of his Christian identity, ideology. Is it me, or it looks like? How is the visual? Let me know because I'm looking at the session and it looks like it's choppy or slow or something. Is that me, y'all? Let me know, man, before I get started. Let me know if that's me. I don't know if that's my computer. Let me check my phone. Let me jump off. Let me get on here and see. Let me see if that's. Let me jump off. See. Does it look choppy? Or y'all saying it looks good? Not sure what could be the cause of that. All right, I'm back. So I don't know what's going on. I was trying to do some tweaking so that way it can look better and it won't look so choppy. Let me see. So y'all let me know if it's fine. I mean, it might be fine. Just let me know if it's fine because it looks like it's breaking up on my end. I don't know what's going on, man. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I'll continue. If y'all saying it's all good, I'm gonna continue. All right. All right. So me and the brother was having a dialogue. We was having a discussion. And like I said, I took it easy on the brother. And it was his show. Um, hold on. All right. I apologize for that. So it was very interesting because I decided to take it easy on the brother, kind of feel him out because I never really had a one-on-one discussion with him before. So I wanted to kind of see where he's coming from. I don't like to make assumptions. I don't like to do straw mans or anything like that, right? When I talk to people, I like to give them an opportunity to kind of explain themselves. Since he opened it up to be questioned, that's exactly what I did. But the key turning point for me in that dialogue that I had with him was when I asked him, about his heritage, right? I asked him about his ancestry and his ancestors, and he says, bruh, I don't really care about that. I was floored. And you know what? He was not the only Black Christian apologist that said that to me. This seems to be a common theme with a lot of Black Christian apologists. And I realize it's because they don't want to get into the discussion of genealogy. They don't want to get into discussion of what tribe they came from, whether it's Israelite or African or whatever. It just seems like they have a lack of interest in where they came from. And one of the things about this is what this does is that they exonerate any crimes that was committed towards their ancestors. They exonerate them at the hands of the oppressor because their religion teaches them to forgive and almost forget. Now this is not all Christian apologists, right? There are some of them that do take their history seriously, right? So I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the Christian apologists that y'all seen me talk to on this platform. These are all ones that have challenged me, right? I don't just go pick on people. Now, these are people who have challenged me, and you've heard them say they don't really care. They don't identify as African American. They don't identify as Black. They don't identify as anything. You know what I'm saying? And when I asked them, I was like, well, if you don't care about your African heritage, your lineage, when you comes to a application, what do you put down? You should click other and put Christian. Because it sounds like, that's now become an ethnicity because you say it's your identity. I see that as extremely problematic, right? And that's my personal opinion, but I see that extremely problematic. Shout out to Jacob Paris for the donation. Thank you so much for the donation, my brother. I greatly appreciate that. Shout out to Tyrone Jones in the building and Tribe of Judah Israel in the building. I think I'm just going to keep this here so I can see the chat while I rap to y'all, right? So when shout out to Get Wise for the donation. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate that. Before I continue, so I'm wearing this is a shirt I showed y'all before. It's called I'm a Kingdom Harbinger. Right, you got the crown, you got the shofar, you have Isaiah 52:7, you got the logo at the bottom. We still got these shirts for sale. We got a new one for the women that will be released this weekend or next week. It's called Make Women Modest Again. It's fire. You're going to see that. But we still got the t-shirts. We got the Culture Community Autonomy. We got this one. We got the Death to Dogma. So if y'all are interested in that, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. We got, from size small to double XL on both men and women. We have colors such as royal blue, navy blue. We have gray. We have red. We have white, and we have black. All right. Actually, I got a couple of here, several orders that I have ready to ship out and to go. So thank you all for supporting that. Thank you for purchasing the t-shirts. So the donations can go towards several things. Like I have an upcoming naturopath to Eden health consultation coming up. And because y'all purchased those shirts, that person is getting a $300 service for free because y'all have purchased those shirts and because of our Patreon supporters, right? So those of you who are interested in supporting this ministry, you can also go to our Patreon, which you can see here. It's on the screen. And it should be on the right of the screen, right? www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. You can sign up there. We have exclusive content only for Patreon. And our mail outs is coming out soon for our Patreon members as well. We'll get free items just for being Patreon members. And we want to shout out and say thank you to y'all. For everybody else, thank y'all for watching this channel, for helping to increase the views, for liking the videos, for getting information out to your friends, your family, your coworkers, or whatever, to make a difference, right? So I don't want to leave nobody out because all of y'all has been instrumental in the success of this platform. So I want to thank y'all for that, all right? So let me transition back to what I was saying. So I realized that in talking with him and these other Christian apologists, both in public formal dialogues and also behind the scenes, that they don't care about their color, right? The color of their skin is not a big deal to them. They don't care about that, which I find very disheartening. They don't care about their heritage, their lineage. They don't care about their ancestry. They don't even care about their ancestors. Yo, when I was speaking to Brother Jay, and y'all can catch that on the Patreon. Otherwise, you can just do a Google search for it or YouTube search for it, and it'll come up. But it's conveniently on the Patreon for Patreon members. I cut it so that way you only get that discussion. What is interesting is I said to him, I said, you know, your ancestors from West Africa, you know, how did they get Christianity? I said, do you believe that they received Western Christianity, you know, through a very noble cause or campaign that was going on in that region? And you know what he said to me? He quoted a scripture from Paul that says Christ is preached, you know, for good reasons and bad reasons. He told me it didn't matter how Christ was preached to his ancestors. Doesn't matter if the deception was involved, if violence was involved, if anything was involved. He said, as long as Christ was preached to them and they received the gospel, however they received it, he's like, I'm grateful for that. I was like, what? Yo, and it's interesting because even when I have you know, social media discourses with Christians in regards to Africa, and I say to them, I said, well, how did your ancestors in West Africa become Christians, right? The first thing they defer to and say, oh, but Christianity was in Northeast Africa, was in East Africa, was in Ethiopia. And I'm like, yes, but I'm not talking about those regions. I'm speaking specifically of West Africa. And they always defer. And then one person got the nerve to tell me that they became Christians because of Islam in West Africa. I was like, yes, yeah, before colonialism, before the European, you know, they learned about the Bible through Islam, and through Islam, they became Christians. I was like, what? I was like, so you telling me that West African tribes converted to Christianity after being exposed to Islam? And I'm saying to myself, they obviously don't know the history of Islam in West Africa. But I digress. And these are people who are professed Christian apologists with degrees, trying to make a point. All I'm trying to do is open up the dialogue, open up discussion to see if they have any concern in regards to the means in which their ancestors became Christians. Now, whether it's right or wrong, it's subjective, relative, whatever. The point I was trying to make when I was speaking to the brother Jay, I was like, well, your form of Christianity, do you believe is more of the Western flavor or the Eastern flavor? I had a Christian apologist say to me, what is a Western flavor? There's no such thing as a Western flavor of Christianity. Anybody can type up Western Christianity and you'll be able to see that that is a term that represents something. But I digress again. But I just thought it was very interesting when I was speaking to him. He said, oh, I believe it's more of an Eastern flavor. I don't know if he knew what I meant when I said that. Like, I didn't ask him about any liturgical practices or customs, anything like that in regards to the Eastern flavor of Christianity, and or the manuscripts that they use, their translations that they use there. etc. But he was saying, oh, I don't watch sports because sports is violent, sports is evil, because one person is beating up on another person, so I don't watch UFC. And he started saying that he don't entertain movies and stuff like that. This is what he says, right? And I said, wow, that's interesting. I said, what about the holidays? No, I don't celebrate the holidays. I said, you sure? When Christmas time come around and I tune into your podcast, I'm not going to see a big old pine tree behind you, because if you do it, that's your business. I'm just asking. No, I don't do Christmas, blah, blah. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And that's going to segue us into what this actual show was about, right? So I realized that, and this is not for all Christians, right? Because I'm not dogging all Christians. And again, I have a beef with Christendom, right? Certain flavors of Christianity, I really don't have a beef with. I do not like Western Christianity at all. Eastern Christianity, I'm like, okay, if you're going to be a Christian, that is probably the best flavor, right? Of Christianity, the lesser of the two, I would go with Eastern Christianity. But I think is extremely significant for us to identify that there are various streams of Christianity, and not to presume or assume what a particular person's position is unless you give them the opportunity to speak it. But one thing that I realized when it comes to Christians who do not want to identify with their ethnicity, that do not want to identify with their ancestry, with their ancestors, that they're willing to make compromises. Okay. Big compromises. And Halloween is one of them. Okay. Now, why don't I celebrate Halloween? Well, when I was a Christian, apologist or Christian, I would say, oh, Halloween is wicked, it's evil, it's pagan. And this is when the portals open and Satan and Lucifer and his demons are coming out and preying on people and all of that. Now, could that be possible? Well, there's a lot of seances that's done in this day. There's a lot of divination that's involved. Even in the Samhain festival, divination was involved, right? So there are people that are speaking with their dead ancestors and, lighting the candle way for their ancestors to come back to their homes, to bring good greetings. This is where your trick or treat situation comes from. So there is a time where divination is extremely high on this day, right? And then the next day is supposed to be All Saints Day, right? But it's believed that from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. or midnight is the high time for this period of divination, right? This period for you to, do your Gaelic festivities, right? For you to, partake in this Druid religion. And you got to remember, everything that's done is not from the Druid religion per se. Some things came about through syncretism, right? Syncretism is the amalgamation of various pieces of different cultures that are being brought together and created as one. America is a melting pot. So that is what's happened. The issue is this: when you send a young Black child to school and they're in social studies, they're learning about the history of every other ethnic group. When it comes to them, oh, you a slave. Yeah. And then some history books, so study books, they say, oh, your ancestors migrated here looking for work. What? How do you start a child's history off as a slave? Do you know how much psychological damage and trauma that does? It causes micro fractions in the psyche of that child as they grow up. Those fractions become bigger, bigger, and bigger, and all of a sudden they have a fractured perception of their reality as they stand in society. So when it comes to things like Halloween, when it comes to things as St. Patrick's Day, which I discussed on here before, St. Valentine's Day, or Christmas, or Thanksgiving, or whatever the case may be, they're willing to accept and receive these things. Number one, because American culture idolizes these holidays. But when you decide that you want to follow the holidays of your, Kemetic, ancestors, or your traditional African spiritual ancestors, or your Israelite ancestors, there's a beef, there's a problem with it, right? Because that's not, that all of that is taboo, right? You're not going along with the program. You're not really, investing in this American culture that you're a part of, or the society that you're a part of. Now, I'm not saying that people engage in these things, that they're wicked, evil. I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is a compromise is made for somebody that wants to adhere to their ancestral continuity of cultural and customary practices, right? Shout out to my brother Yehuda Ben Yisrael for the donation. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that, my brother. All right. And we keep it real here, right? We keep it 100 here, but we do so in a manner that is palatable, right? In a manner that is digestible, that can be easily received, right? So the point that I'm making is there is so much intertwining of cultures here, the melting pot that is called America, that when it comes to Black or African American children, adults, etc., we don't even know none of our cultural practices. We celebrate Independence Day. We celebrate Halloween, right? And I see mostly Christians that celebrate Halloween more than any other group, right? But sometimes some people say, oh, that's Hallelujah night. Then they do their Hallelujah night where they're still giving candy and they still have jack-o'-lanterns and all that other stuff in a Black church. What is that doing in a Black church? What is Hallelujah night? You know what I'm saying? I remember because when I was in Christianity, I would do Hallelujah night, and it was supposed to be some kind of like white witch magic. You know what I'm saying? Like you have the Black witch and the white witch. It's like white witch magic that you're performing in opposition to Black witch magic that's occurring at the same time. I'm saying just don't do anything at all. You don't have to conjure none of that up at all. You can just leave it where it be and let the dice fall where it may. But that's my position. But what I want to say is when you look at a people who have no knowledge of their history, of their heritage, of their lineage, of their ancestry, they'll be willing to accept anything to piece together that fractured identity. They'll be willing to make these compromises because they will see nothing wrong with them. Now, some people have to engage in these things for work purposes or engage in things for whatever reasons they engage in it from. That's between you and your creator or the deities you deal with or whatever the case may be. The point I'm trying to make is if we are going to preserve our ancestral culture, we have to be consistent in the things that we engage in. And when I say that, that has to do with these different cultural practices. Now, the reason why I don't celebrate Halloween is because it has nothing to do with my ancestral culture. So therefore, I'm not going to culturally misappropriate somebody else's cultural tradition in lieu of my cultural tradition that I'm unaware of. I'm not going to do that out of good conscience. So I'm going to leave this holiday for those who have Celtic background, who have Irish background, those individuals, that's their cultural practices. The Druids were the elite priests amongst the Celtic tribes, the ancient Celtic tribes out in Ireland and in Europe, right? And if you understand what the Gaelic, and again, I posted the link in the chat. You can click on it and check it out. Shout out to Cameron Branch for the donation. I appreciate that, Aki. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. So what I'm saying is, man, I just forgot what I was saying. But anyway, so what I was saying was, when you understand what the Gaelic practices are, right, and understand that Halloween, which also some people call Sam Haines Day or whatever the case may be, and Sam Haines Day, it's a feast. So you feast during that day, right, which is important. You light bonfires, and the bonfires represent something, right? You do guising and mumming during that time period. And there's also high divination that's practiced during this festival. Okay. Samhain is amalgamated into Halloween. Now, jack-o'-lanterns. It's interesting. It's another syncretism in regards to Halloween. Because the jack-o'-lantern itself is the melding of an Irish myth tradition that has met its way here in the Americas. And one of the staple crops of harvest here in the Americas amongst the natives that were here before the European colonizers came over here was the pumpkin. And the natives was not carving no jack-o'-lanterns. So you know that it only goes back but so far. And when you study Ellis Island and a lot of other things in regards to the Irish and so forth coming over here to Americas, you can trace to see when they started appearing over here in the Americas and why. There's reasons why they had came over here. And if those of you who are from New York or who are from Massachusetts and Boston and so forth, you have a high influx of Irish people that live in these cities. And they also are into various trades, especially the police department. And there's a reason for that. There's a history behind that. I would implore you to go ahead and do your research. The point I'm trying to make was these people brought over their various culture and practices and customs with them. And because this ethnic group, even though a lot of times they were marginalized and persecuted where they was coming from, when they came here, they made a way for themselves, right? So much so that now certain customs and practices that came from these people are now mainstream in American holidays. But how many Africanisms are celebrated widely and put into American holidays? How many Israelite flavor feast days are intertwined into American holidays? These things are not here. They still exist amongst the peoples, but they're not highly celebrated. There's no syncretism between that and American holidays. That goes to show that there's a displaced people that are here that they're trying to figure out, how do we deal with these people? If we disconnect them from their cultural heritage, we can continue to enslave and control their minds. We can get them to, integrate into this society to a point where they'll lose their identity, who they are, or they'll devalue it. And they will value the things of the other groups that we taught them in social studies. So we won't give them any truth about their own history, their own customs, and their own practices. They don't need to know those things because they're Americans now. And therefore, if we can get them to forget their past or devalue their past in Christ, devalue your past in Christ, guess what? We ain't got to give them no reparations because they're going to forgive us. And if they forgive us en masse, we don't owe them nothing. Shout out to Taki Cochran. Thank you so much, sis, for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate that. So before midnight hits, because this is the high time for Halloween. So before midnight hits, let's get into what jack-o'-lanterns are all about. Who is Stingy Jack? And after you hear the history of Stingy Jack and this Irish myth tradition, you have to let me know if you, in good faith or good conscience, if you're a Christian watching this, if you want to continue to practice this custom. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Give me 1 second. Let's get to it. All right. Okay, give me a second. All right, family. So if y'all can see the screen, hit 1. If y'all can see the screen, hit 1. Hit 1 if y'all can see the screen. If you can hear me and see the screen, hit 1. Hit 1. Let me know. And those of y'all who are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, those of you who are in the chat right now, hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying this content. Make sure you share this video everywhere. Give it to your family, your friends. If they're going to celebrate Halloween right now, send this link to them. Okay? They need to be watching this. All right? And those of you who are watching this on the replay, share it with everybody that you know. Okay? I'm only giving you the facts. Okay? You can take it or leave it. However you do with it is on you. All right? All right. So y'all can hear me and y'all can see the screen. All right. So let's get into it. Okay? Let's look into this interesting history right here. All right. So let's read. Pumpkins with ghoulish faces and illuminated by candles are a sure sign of the Halloween season. The practice of decorating jack-o'-lanterns originated in Ireland. So how many of you are Irish in here? If you're Irish, hit 2. If you are Irish, hit 2. If you are Irish, this is part of your custom. You should be practicing it. If you're not Irish, why are you practicing it? Why are you doing cultural misappropriation? How can you justify that? Let's keep going. Look at this, where large turnips and potatoes served as early canvases. That means when this practice was first being performed, this custom, it was done on turnips and potatoes. Okay. In fact, the name jack-o'-lantern comes from an Irish folk tale about a man named Stingy Jack. Irish immigrants brought the tradition to America, home of the pumpkin, and it became an integral part of Halloween festivities. Interesting. And we can also get into the trick-or-treating in a second, but let's deal with Stingy Jack, right? This may be new to some of y'all, okay? The legend of Stingy Jack. People have been making jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween for centuries. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man named Stingy Jack. According to the story, hold on. Let me zoom in on the screen. I'm sorry. Let me make it more legible. Let me know if y'all can see this. If this is better. Let me know if this is better. Yeah, we get the Listerine ad out of here. All right. So let me keep going. All right. Okay, here we go. So people have been making jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween for centuries. The practice originated from an Irish myth about a man nicknamed Stingy Jack. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. Now, slow down. It starts off with him inviting the devil. Yo, you can't make this up, man. Christians say that Halloween is harmless. Okay, let's keep going. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it into his pocket next to a silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. Now, as you'll know, this, we're talking about the devil and a cross. This is only going back to the people's Christian conversion. Because on this channel, I spoke before about the Europeans pre-Christendom and how they had ancestral practices and customs, indigenous customs and so forth, that then was co-opted and then converted over to Christianity. Okay, so this goes to show you that there's a timeline in which, or a providence in which this thing came from. But let's keep going, which prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. So Stingy Jack, he's stingy and he's deceptive. And look what he did. He beguiled the devil. This is the man right here. Let's keep going. Jack eventually freed the devil under the condition that he will not bother Jack for 1 year and that should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. The next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. While he was up in the tree, Jack carved the sign of the cross into the tree's bark so that the devil could not come down until the devil promised Jack not to bother him for 10 more years. Look at this guy. Soon after Jack died, as the legend goes, God will not allow such an unsavory figure into heaven. The devil, upset by the trick Jack had played on him and keeping his word not to claim his soul, will not allow Jack into hell. He sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal in a carved out turnip and has been roaming the earth ever since. The Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure as Jack of the Lantern and then simply Jack-o'-lantern. Now, let's slow down for a second. When you carve out a face into a pumpkin and you carve out a piece on the top to insert a candle and you are moving that thing around or placing it in something, what you're saying is that you're identifying that jack-o'-lantern with the tradition of Stingy Jack. And guess what? The essence or the egregore, the thought form of Stingy Jack resides in that lantern. And then people are bringing that into their home. A character by the name of Stingy Jack, they're inviting him into their home or near the gateway of their home. This is simply what you're doing. Now, I don't know if Christians are okay with this. Maybe they are. Maybe they're like, oh, I plead the blood of Jesus over my house so Stingy Jack can come in, but he can't stay. Sound like somebody's grandma. You feel what I'm saying? But the point I'm trying to make is when you don't understand something and you are engaging in an ancestral practice, especially a priestly ancestral practice of a particular ethnic group, you don't have the same protective spirits over you from that group that you're engaging in. Let me explain to you what I mean spiritually. When we say spiritually, it's deal with the scriptures. I want to show you something. All right. Yeah, Christians will say, plead the blood everywhere. They'll say, Stingy Jack can't be greater than the blood of Jesus, the blood of the Lamb. I plead the blood over this house. Stingy Jack and his friends cannot come into his house. Never mind the jack-o'-lantern that I got near the window. That doesn't matter because that is just a thing. It's material. Okay? The supernatural cannot reside in this house, so I plead the blood of Jesus over that. Somebody said Jack gotta be from Harlem. Brian's crazy. He a hustler, yo. Yo, Jack is a hustler, man. Yo, he hustled the devil, man. That's a G right there. All right. So let's we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going, right? So let me explain to you what I'm talking about. And this is gonna segue into a later lecture I'm gonna do on demons, because demons are misunderstood. And that term demon comes from diamond, and that word diamond or daemon is a Greek word, and you see the origin of that word or its etymology, and the myths that relate to it. Right, that has nothing to do with the Tanakh at all. So when you see that word demon in Psalms and Deuteronomy, that's a bad translation. Bad translation. What that is supposed to allude to is the word sedu, which goes back to a Assyrian word, and that word sedu is expressly meaning a protective spirit, especially of the bull colossus. Okay, so let's go. We're gonna go into a couple of things. I'm gonna try to get y'all to understand why you should not be engaging in this practice. And again, when you engage in various customs in Halloween, you are culturally misappropriating the customs of another ethnic group and or the priesthood practices of another ethnic group. These priests have talismans, they have special sayings, incantations that are designed to protect them and others when they engage in certain practices. If you do not know these same things, but yet you engage in these same customs and practices, and then now certain things are befalling you, it is because you're engaging in things that you have no business dealing with. This is why I say this is not your culture. These are not your customs or practices unless you're Irish. Now, here's something that's interesting. I was in New Orleans not too long ago, right? And matter of fact, let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all something. I want to show y'all something since we getting good. This is getting good. I was not even anticipating. Oh, it's 12 midnight. Y'all keep your brother in prayer, man, because I'm speaking about this stuff. And this may be some spooks out there. Nah, be cool. But look, I want to show y'all something, man. I want to show you something that's really interesting. I want to show you something. Right? So I was in New Orleans, right? Let me bring up this picture. I want to show you. Here we go. Here we go. I was in New Orleans, right? And every time I go to New Orleans, hold on, let me bring it up. Where is it at? Shout out to my brother Shay Brooks, man. Shout out to Shay Brooks, my brother in New Orleans, KHM member out there in New Orleans. All right. So, all right. So I went to Bourbon Street, right? I want to show you this video real quick. I'm gonna have to put my camera on. Hold on one second. All right. So I went to Bourbon Street. This is me on Bourbon Street, right? I'm walking down Bourbon Street. I'm just recording me walking down Bourbon Street and all the sights and sounds and stuff. I didn't get a chance to do it at night. This was like during the day, but I want to show you something that's very interesting, right? So let me fast forward this video. I'm gonna show you something, and I don't know why I can't find my pictures of this, but I want to show you something real quick. All right, now look. Now keep an eye on right here. Look, any of y'all who are from New Orleans or who've been there, do you see? I don't know. It's not that clear on the camera. You see that? House of Voodoo. Hold on. Let me go back. Let me go back. Hold on. Let me go back. Let me go back. All right. So pay attention to what you see there. Pay attention to what you're about to see. Can y'all see? All right. So that where I went and I wanted to take pictures inside, but they don't allow you to take pictures inside, right? But that is let me see it again. Let me see it again. It is Marie Lavia's House of Voodoo, right? So I've studied voodoo a lot, practices voodoo a lot, so I'm familiar with voodoo. But one thing that I saw when I went in there is a lot of syncretism. So it's not just voodoo. I mean, voodoo is like a taboo word because a lot of people don't understand that. That's an ancestral African practice, right? But the thing that I saw was really interesting there is when I went into there, they didn't just have, voodoo or loas or anything like that there. They had all types of ancestral deities and figurines and idols and shrines and talismans and incantations. Man, when I went in there, that was like, wow. Now, I've been in shops like that. But this one had like in the back, you had to get VIP access to go in the back, and they do all kinds of seances and stuff in there. It's really readings, and it's really, really, really interesting. When I went in there, I really wanted to turn my camera on so bad and hit record. But what I saw there, they also had items that you would normally find throughout Halloween. And speaking to one of the spiritists there, I asked him, I said, what is your thoughts on Halloween? Because I see a lot of trinkets here related to Halloween. He says the issue with Americans, right, who are not sensitive to spirituality is that they don't realize that the items and the customs and practice stuff that they're utilizing and making on Halloween, there's certain incantations that must be spoken before you do or perform these practices. Otherwise, you can displease some entity who that practice catered towards, and they can be adversarial towards you. This is what he said to me. He said he's a licensed spiritist, whatever that means. He asked me if I want a reading. I said, no, thank you. All right. I said, I could cast my lots for that. I don't need you to do any readings for me, right? Hold on. Let me bring this back up. All right. So when he said that to me and I started to look, he started, showing me some items and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is truly incredible how ignorant our people are about this stuff. Truly ignorant. Shout out to Dale H for the donation. Thank you so much, my brother. I truly appreciate that. Anybody else? Like I said, you guys are welcome to subscribe or pledge on our Patreon. Just type in Divine Prospect on www.patreon.com. And you can sign up for a pledge to keep this ministry going and to help us provide services for free to the community. All right. But anyway, so he said this to me, and I was wild. Right now, I've been to these shops before in the past in different other cities, but a lot of times they were mostly like hidden places that you would have to go to, and they were like in like alleyways or stuff like that. Here is laid open in Bourbon Street, and it's obvious because of the way the culture is very open down there in New Orleans. But suffice to say, the point I'm trying to make is people engage in customs and practices and don't even know the history, don't even know the nature, don't even know the purpose, right? Or don't even know the side effects of engaging in certain customs and practices until it's too late. And then certain things start to happen, misfortunes happen, and they can't even link it back. They don't even know where it stems from. And a lot of times during this purging period, there's certain things that you just have to remove from out your home. And that's just how cultural or ancestral cultures are when it's the purging process, right? Even engaging in Israelite culture, there are certain norms that were practiced by those peoples. So when I showed that book in my debate with Dennis O, I showed the book to him where it's called A Family and Household Religion in ancient, Levant and Judah. You'll go back and you'll see certain things that they were doing within their home, right, that we don't do anymore. And they did that for the effectiveness of their prayers, of their meditation, of their connection to the divine. We've been disconnected from those things. We've been totally removed from those things. And these are the things that those who identify as Israelites, those are your ancestral practices. When I talk about casting lots, it's like, when I talk about pouring libation, when I talk about tutelary spirits, y'all have tutelary spirits. That's scriptural. So what are you talking about? What I'm saying is these things are things that was embedded in the culture. See, people think everything is just at the statute, laws, and commandments. No, it's the culture is much more than that. Much more than that. But the other stuff that was complementary or supplemental to what we call the mitzvot, that has been removed because that actually has a lot of power. That was taken away. People say, show me the scripture for tutelary spirits. Do y'all really want to see the scripture for tutelary spirits? Did you know that in some cultures they're called ancestors? The Israelites. Let's get the scriptures. Let's get the scriptures. So y'all gonna be like, yo, Divine bugging out. What is you talking about? Shout out, thank you, Chris. I appreciate Chris. He shared the link for the Cast and Lots video. And I promise you, fam, I'm not gonna keep y'all for too much longer because I know some of y'all gotta go to work tomorrow. You know what I'm saying, on All Saints Day, unless y'all taking that day off if you're Catholic or whatever the case may be. But let's pull out some scriptures real quick. I wanted to pull out scriptures because I want to show you something in regards to the protecting spirits, in regards to deities claiming people and claiming land and certain practices. When you do them and they're not connected to the patron deity that is supposed to be your protective spirit or entity, you are out of line and you're out of that protective boundary. Therefore, you're game to anything outside of the protective boundary in which your patron deity has set up in order to protect you. Certain things you cannot get from the patron deity because certain things you're not performing. Like I told you, prayer is a formula. Prayer is an appeal for you to get the judge to overturn a ruling. And the reason why people pray is so that way intervention and interpose, intervene, and intervention, which comes from intervene, and intercession, that's the one I'm looking for, can be performed on a fate that is already playing out. Just like when you have to put an appeal before a court to get a ruling to be overturned, when you pray, it is the same thing. Prayer and meditation are not the same thing. And there's a formula to ensure that when you perform these practices, that they're effective. Guess what? That information has been removed from our community. We pray amiss. And we wonder why we don't yield the results that we're looking for. See, I had to search these things out, research it, spend endless nights looking into these things so I can restore it back to our community. I did a lecture already on biblical meditation. Go check it out. It's called Meditation by the Book. You're going to love it because what you think is meditation is not. It's the cultural misappropriation of another people's tradition. It's not scriptural. So I had to bring it back to restore it for our people. Prayer also, the way you pray now today, is designed so that way you do not yield as much results that you intend to look for in that prayer. And what happens is when you don't get the results, you say, God works in mysterious ways. That's interesting. Did anybody say that in the scriptures when they pray? Did they say God works in mysterious ways? Did they say that? I don't recall them saying that because they understood the formula for prayer. And they understood why they're praying. And they understood prayer's purpose and what prayer can and can't do. When you take the meditative elements that should be done in meditation and bring it into prayer, you're ruining your prayer. When you take the prayer elements and intertwine into your meditation, you ruin your meditation. This is heavy. When you go back and look at the silver scrolls, right? Silver scrolls are two small fragments of parchment that is believed to have been placed into an amulet, which was a talisman that was designed to protect the people who wore it from evil spirits. Demons, Damien, and all that stuff, they were originally protective spirits of the dead. When you awaken, interfere, when you disrupt the dead, you are awakening the protective spirits that are designed to protect the dead. When you disrupt or misappropriate somebody else's cultural practices, where there's an elite priesthood that is over it, that is designed to be the gatekeepers in regards to keeping at bay these certain protective spirits of certain practices, cultural elements, and so forth, and you do so in a format or fashion that is not taking into account there are certain steps and procedures that must be performed in order for this thing to be done right, you are now opening yourself and inviting that type of destruction to happen upon yourself. Some people would say, oh, that's spooky. We're just going back to the ancestral practices. Call it what you want. But what I'm saying is, when you take the time to actually dive in and understand what is taking place, you can reorganize your approach. You know the do's and the don'ts, what's allowed and what's disallowed, and it's disallowed for a reason. But man, let me go over these couple scriptures here. Shout out to my brother Ashan. He says, death to dogma, bring it out. Oh, you know, that's all we do over here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're new to this channel, hit the thumbs up. If you're liking the content, share this video everywhere. And if you want to give or donate, the options are there on the screen, or you could do the super chat. All right. Thank you for the donation again, my brother Ashan. But I wanna get this to y'all. Hold on. Let me do this for y'all. All right. Okay. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to explain to you what I mean and why the jack-o'-lantern practice, when you perform it, you are bringing to life Stingy Jack. You are inviting him into your home. This is what you're doing, right? Now, those of you right now watching this, y'all may have the jack-o'-lantern right there in your home or outside your door, on your porch or whatever. If you're Irish and you understand that practice and the ramifications of it and the reasoning behind it and anything that's priestly that must be done or performed so Stingy Jack don't come and take or deceive you, by all means. But if you don't, be very careful. You're treading on thin ice. There's a lot of people that say, oh, that's just harmless practices. And, you know, when you know science, and that's interesting because there's still phenomenon out there that science cannot account for. Does that mean that it's not scientifically explainable? That doesn't mean it's not. But there are some things that define what we call the laws of science. Science has laws. There's axioms that define scientific principles. All right. But at the same time, there are things that science has not explained, because some things actually go against the grain of what we will call orthodox scientific knowledge. And sometimes in the realm of these ancestral practices, there were things that they understood. Now, granted, there are some things that they did that obviously, you know, science easily explains, right? But there are also things that science did not explain, or even common logic cannot explain. And they attribute it based on experiential knowledge. Okay? Because you have really two types of knowledge: knowledge that is innate, knowledge that is based off of experience or empirical knowledge. All right. So from there, let's transition. I want to explain to y'all, and I'm telling you, the jack-o'-lantern is just the element as allowing me to transition to the real discussion, because I don't want to get into the Druid religion. I don't want to get into who the ancient Celts are. I went all over this in the other video that I did 2 years ago. I broke down the entire history behind Halloween. You'll go back and check it out. What I want to do here is make some progression. I want you to understand that Israelite culture, the indigenous Israelite culture, is not something that's celebrated here in America. And it's that way for a reason. There's so much power into that ancestral practice that if we all was to be doing these things, there would be terror. And the reason why I say that is because it would befuddle Christians, right? It would confound Jews, you know, it would confuse Muslims, and people outside of those Abrahamic faiths would throw them all off. You know why? Because they've never associated these things with the word Israelite. See, when it comes to how you define who's a Jew or not, is based on their halakha. A lot of halakha comes from minhag. Minhagim is your customs. And these customs have been intertwined into halakha. Halakha is, how do you perform certain things that are not explicit but are implicit in the text? How do you carry it out? Based on your environment, based on what you have access to, This is why when you take Torah and turn it to instructions that is laid down as a template, you can take it and build it anywhere. Okay? So watch this. Listen to what I'm saying. Because what Israelites do today looks so much like Judaism and Christianity, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. But when you start to take the original ancient pre-exilic Israelite culture and you reconstruct and restore that thing, it will throw everybody off. I'm telling you, it will. Now, I've been teaching on this for some time now. Over 3.5 years, I've been bringing this out. Okay. But I think that because there's a slow adoption rate in the Israelite community based on dogma, presuppositions, fear, taboo, misconceptions, that we just don't engage in. But these are things that you find all throughout the scriptures. People will say, well, all those other customs and practices, that caused our people to go off. No, it didn't. What caused our people to go off is when they started to imitate the cultural practices of other ethnic groups. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's get into this because it just really, I'm really just blown by the fact that a lot of people are not really reading the text with comprehension. They're reading it so they can regurgitate it, but not with comprehension. The reason why Israel was kicked out was not because of the practices that they were performing, but when they decided to perform the practices of other ethnic groups that was amongst them. That it was, okay, look, you're going to say, give me scripture. Let me give you scripture. I want to give you like several scripture. Let me give you that scripture. Okay, let me show you this. Let me show you this because we just bring out the information here. Okay, and I guarantee you will learn something even if you hate or disagree. Hate this information, disagree, you will learn something. And what you do with that is on you. But let me show you something. Let me show you something. Let me bring it out. Okay. Let's go to Shemot chapter 23, verse 24. Okay. Shemot chapter 23, verse 24. It says, you must not bow down to their powers or serve them or follow their practices. It tells you instead you are to demolish them, smash their sacred stones to pieces. Now, this is something that Israel was allotted to do because they were in their sovereignty in the land. So being sovereign in the land, an imperial decree can go forth for them to do these things. Now, today, we can't just go around and start destroying things or vandalizing. And the Vandals is actually a group of peoples who the Romans fought against and forced converted them into Christianity. That's another discussion altogether. You'll go back and research Vandal, and they took the term Vandal and they made it into a derogatory term. That's crazy. It's like the word Negro, Niger, they turn into nigger, it turned into a derogatory term. The word Vandal also, where you get your word vandalized, it comes from a group of people who was fighting against Roman oppression and Christendom. But they don't want you to know that history. These are Europeans, indigenous Europeans that was fighting against Christendom. I digress. That's a little nugget for you to research. But because we can't go around and we can't do those things now, we can just take the principle. And that is, if we have these things in our home, destroy it and get rid of it. If you have these things in anything that you come in contact with, purge it, get rid of it. But the key thing here is do not follow. Now, in Hebrew, we have lo tishtachaweh lelochehem, velo ta'abedem, velo ta'aseh, ke ma'asechem ki haretz, hares, te haresem, wesabeber, te saber, mase botechem. So the key thing here is you have that word overthrow. You shall utterly hares, taharesem, overthrow them, we saber, completely, utterly overthrow these things. The key thing there is their works. Let's look up that root word for their works. Their works is the word maseh, ma'aseh, right? Mem, ayin, shin, he. That key word there is deed or works, a deed or work. So when you're looking at other cultures and you're imitating the deeds and the works of other cultures, the instruction, the ancestral impression that is left behind from the text is you are not to imitate them. You are not to do them. You are to overthrow them and utterly get rid of them. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting because this is why the Israelites was casted out. They were casted out simply because they were told not to imitate the ways of the nations around. Let's get another scripture for that. Let me get another scripture for that. Get another scripture for that. Let's go to Debarim 18 and 9. All right, Debarim 18 and 9. All right. And this is the key. It says, and I'm reading from the ESV, and we can go into the Hebrew afterwards. When you come into the land that Yod He Wav He Elohecha, your power is giving you, you shall not imitate. You shall not learn to follow. What? The abominable practices of those nations. Now, why is that word abominable attached to the practices of the other nations? Because remember, when it comes to ethics, it is relative per cultural mandate. Every cultural mandate lets you know what is allowable, what is disallowable. Every cultural mandate has that. So one cultural mandate can be at odds with another cultural mandate of another ethnic group, and it will say that those practices are to be outlawed, and vice versa. Are you following me? But let's look up this key word there. I want to get you this key word there that they're using when they say you should not learn to follow. They use that word imitate, which I think is I like that translation. Ki ata ba'el haaretz aser Yahweh Elohecha noten lach lo tilmad la'asot ke toabot hagoyim hachem. Key word that we're looking there is you should not learn to follow the abominations. Now, the reason why that stigma of abomination is attached, or what can also be called something that's loathsome, that word tobah, is specifically so that they will not engage into practices that will now cause them to be out of bounds, where they are no longer under the protective veil of their patron deity. They have now sidestepped or crossed over into the boundaries of another ethnic group's practices, culture, and religion. And watch how interesting this is. You remember when the Israelites was coming out the land and Most High was giving them the mitzvot, and they was bringing that into the land when they established themselves in the land, and that there was laws for the Gentile that was distinct from the laws that were for the Israelites. Well, if a Gentile decided to do certain things like partake in Passover, watch this, and they have not been circumcised, they are now going against the grain. They are now violating part of Torah. Therefore, there are consequences that come along with that. Now, imagine an Israelite who will be considered a Gentile into another cultural ethnic group's sphere of influence that do not know the ways of that culture, is now just culturally misappropriating anything and everything, however they feel that they want, and being allowed to do so, that there are consequences for that. When you read the Moabite stele, man, this will explain to you why Misha had problems with his deity. That's another discussion altogether. All I'm saying is, when you decide that if you identify as an Israelite and you go to Debarim chapter 32, verse 9, where it says that Yod He Wav He's portion is Yaakov, or the seed of Yaakov, that means the people are his portion. The land is where he now implements his sovereign rule and reign to utilize the people to be his vessels of light to the other nations on how things should be done. But even amongst them being scattered, they are still his people. But that is provided you are following the mitzvot that apply to you outside of the land, which we got to do a discussion on that so we understand. What happens is the moment that now he still has possession of you while you are keeping things that are part of the contract, because the contract, which is the covenant, is what gives you the covering for the seed extension, the extension of the seed, and you decide that you want to engage into the cultural customs and practices of other ethnic groups that have no respect or bearing on the contract or covenant that your ancestors had that has now been passed out onto you, you are in violation of certain code of ethics that cultural mandate is providing, and therefore you are outside the boundaries of protection and provision from the patron deity who has contracted with your forefathers that you are now a benefactor and beneficiary of. Therefore, when you do certain things like this, when, oh, I'm not black and I'm not this and I'm not that, and you decide that you want to be an American and all American and chase the American dream, you are following into the customs, cultural practices of other ethnic groups. And therefore, you do not have the express protection of your patron deity. Okay. All right. Let me slow down. Shout out to Block 229 in the building. Shout out to Azariah, the Truth Channel. Thank you for joining. My brother Rodney Frederick in the building. Emily Broussard Govan. Chris Shakur. Yahuwah. Thank y'all for joining in. I appreciate that. Let me see. Brian Burnett. Thank you for joining in. Kimo Ben Yisrael, Prince of Peace of Israel. What's going on? Jesse James. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's in here supporting. Shout out to King Judah in the building. Cher Stewart in the building. Slow Flow, the God in the building. Murdoch 1717 in the building. Now, family, forgive me. I'm not seeing, shout out to Go Surfer. I'm not seeing everything y'all put in the chat. Y'all can also email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com if any questions, concerns come up from this dialogue or you need some assistance or whatever. Email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. My admin or moderator can put that into the chat. But like I said before, hit subscribe if you're new. Hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying the content of what it is that you're seeing and you're hearing. If you want any source material for anything that I mentioned, email me and I'll be sure to get it to you because I don't like to say things amiss, right? I also have extensive resources to back the things that I'm saying as well. Shout out to By Hearing and Hearing By. Let me see who else is in here that I missed. If you want to shout out, hit two. Shout out to Black Av in the building. Kazi T. Aldrich Dow. And anybody else that want, if you want to shout out, hit two. If you want to shout out, hit two. Let me shout you out. Again, I appreciate y'all for supporting and being here. Shout out to How's My Driving, Virtue, Hoshea, Yaben, Yahawada in the building. What's going on, y'all? Henry Campbell. What's up, Mattiyahu Ben Yisrael? What's going on? Fly After Round. What's going on? So let's keep going. So when you violate the covenant and you decide that you are going to celebrate the protecting spirits of another culture, because Yod He Wav He is the protective spirit over the seed of Yisrael. He has allowed an opportunity for strangers, your Nakar, your Goyim, etc., to come into the fold, but there are certain rules and regulations that apply to them. So let me show you this. If we was transplanted as an anachronism, transplanted from our contemporary state into the time period when the Druids were in power amongst the ancient Celts, and the practices that we do, a lot of them, not all of them, at Halloween, right? We think it's the end of harvest, and you want to put up, all of these harvest items, because again, what they're doing is taking certain practices from natives, and they are doing a form of synchronism with practices from ancient Europe. And we decided that we want to go ahead and, I'm going to carve up, a turnip or a potato. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do a bonfire, or I'm gonna do this, and you did that amongst these priests, you would be in trouble, because those priests, their job as the gateway is to ensure that if any one of their peoples are performing these practices, that they're doing it right, or else there will be certain misfortunes that will befall them. In America, they do all of this stuff without even taking any of that into consideration. They are disrespecting those ancestral practices. They have disregard for it. And we are instructed for us not to imitate, to follow these practices. Because when you do so and you don't understand what you are engaging in, you are crossing the border of protection that you get from your patron deity and enter into another sphere, another realm that you have no clue about. You don't know how it operates. And you are disrespecting the dead, those deities, and that culture. I refuse to do that. I refuse to do that. Because now you are watering down somebody else's culture where it no longer has any efficacy towards the culture or ethnic group that created it. Okay. Shout out to Twin Hathaway in the building. Thank you for joining. Mikhail, Bena, Yashara, what's going on? So let's keep going. Shout out to my brother Hebrew Muscle in the building. ABC 1908, cool story, bro. What's going on? Share this link everywhere. If you got Christian friends that are practicing this, or Israelites that are practicing this, share this link with them. They need to understand this information. Okay. Like I said, Chris, drop the link for my session back in 2017 where I break down Halloween. Again, this is not this session. I'm just using that in order to bring you some newfound information that will help you in your meditative state as we transition into the next day. So that way we don't give our energy or be tempted to give our energy to a cultural festivity that is not our own. This is a way of us combating that through knowledge and edification and empowerment and education and being equipped, 5 E's. This is important. This is important. And again, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. And some stuff I say, maybe it may seem taboo, but it's only taboo to those who are stigmatized and don't have the real root information. They're just dealing with the trunk, the branches, and the leaves. You got to get to the root. So I'm trying to show you this to you. Shout out to Shalom to Royalty Princess in the building. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. So let me show you all these tutelary spirits in the text. Okay. Let me show y'all this. Let me grab it for y'all. Okay. And this is really interesting because you'll hear this term, and like I said, it's because a lot of people don't really understand this. But let me show you something. Okay. 2 things. Psalm 34:7 and Psalm 91:11. Let's do Psalm 34:7 first. Okay, y'all get Psalm 34:7. I'm gonna show you some things. How do you activate the tutelary spirits that have been assigned to protect you? How do you activate that? People gonna be like, "Yo, Divine, you bugging out? You going off? What is you talking about?" I'm just gonna show you what's in the text. I'm not making this up. I'm showing you what's in the text. And this is why a lot of y'all don't have that degree of protection, is because you don't know how to activate it. It's already been assigned to you, but you just can't activate it. Okay. Let's go into it. Let's get it. Let's get Psalm chapter 34. Okay. I'm only going to be here another 30 minutes and I'm out of here. Okay. Psalm 34. I'm going to read verses 1-7 for context. All right. Oh, I just lost what I was looking for. Oh, here we go. All right. So it says, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes his boast in Yod He Wafe. Let the humble hear and be glad. Oh, magnify Yod He Wafe with me, and let us exalt his name forever. So now you are being encouraged to join in with this song, right? It goes on to say, I sought Yod He Wafe, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and Yod He Wafe heard him and saved him out of his troubles. Then it goes to say, the angel of Yod He Wafe encamps about those who fear him, and he delivers them. How do you know if this is occurring in your life? How do you know if this messenger, which is a border crosser that is able to go from one sphere to another sphere of existence, and that angel is encamping about? So you got to understand, what is this fear? What is this fear? Because when you read the psalm in context, it gives you the things to perform in order, as the prerequisite, in order for you to be able to activate the benefits. Some of us go straight for the benefit, but we don't want to do the prerequisites. And we wonder why things are so muddy. I'm trying to give you the trade secrets. Follow me. So now you have this messenger that encamps about you if you know how to fear. Honeh malach Yahweh sabib li re'ah wa chalesim. Interesting. So we have to look at the word yareh. Yareh. How do you yareh? How do you yareh? What is yareh? How do you fear or be fearful, afraid, or revere? How do you be in reverence of Yah? Well, it's very interesting because the Psalms teach you how to be in awe of Yah. The instructions is there. People are just not parsing it out to learn the formula to activate this malach, this messenger. That's what it is. Not this cherubim, this angel figure that you see in Greco-Roman culture. We're not talking about that. There's a mighty messenger that is designed to encamp about you when you fear, reverence Yah. It's there. But what does it do? It's a messenger. It helps to ensure that when you have a troubling time in your life, when you're in distress, because he says this poor man cried out and he was delivered, because salvation is attached to this encamping about this messenger. Now you are getting an ambassador that is able to pierce through this cloud of confusion and bring that cry directly to the mercy seat of Yah on your behalf. All right, let's keep going. We're gonna keep going. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Here we go. Transition into the tutelary spirits, plural. So you got this one messenger. Now you got these tutelary spirits. Let's look into this. Aldrich, you said a troll. Who's the troll? Tell me who the troll is. Hi, friend. Hi, friend. Are you the troll? If you're the troll, we want to see your rainbow colored hair, okay? And your bronze face, your tan face, and you can hop on up into this discussion. I'll send you the link. You can click on the link. You can jump right on in and we can talk, because we don't run from trolls, right? Y'all may get silenced. Y'all may eventually be blocked. But before that happens, you're given an opportunity to join the panel discussion. Would you like to join? Hi, friend. If so, let me know. If not, sit there and spectate. Now, let's keep moving, family. All right? Let's keep going. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new, hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying this content, and share this video everywhere if you want to support. The information is there on the screen. If you want to reach me out on other forms of social media, the information is there on the screen. Let's transition to the second part. Let's get Psalms 91. Psalms 91. And like I said, when you learn how to pray, the formula for prayer is all throughout the text. Shout out to my brother Brian Gaither for the donation again. Thank you again, Aki. I appreciate that. Again, When you understand the formula of how to pray, it's a structure. And my brother Brian, you see ESQ, he's a lawyer. He knows how to write out appeals on behalf of his clients before the court, because a ruling has already been done. Your fate may be that because of your bad diet, you're about to die. You've been afflicted with cancer. And what you are doing is you are asking for enabling power in order for this particular fate to be intervened on, so that way there could be a change of destination. Now, that may be a temporary stop. It may be a permanent stop. But if you don't know how to properly formulate your appeal, so that way you acknowledge the fate. See, the problem when people pray, they don't want to acknowledge the fate. Then you got to pray for the sins of your ancestors. Then you have to acknowledge the circumstances that led to this fate. These are all prerequisites. Then you also have to have the fear of Yah. Listen. And when I say fear, I'm talking about reverence. When a lawyer goes before the judge, there's a degree of respect and reverence that are there for the title that that judge holds. You can't just walk up in there like you're some sovereign citizen and think you're going to get what you're going to get simply because you're sovereign and it's entitled to you. It don't work that way. We have too many people who feel entitled. They feel entitled. That's not how it works. These major characters in the text, and I'm going to go, I got to do this on prayer. They understood what prayer was and how sacred it was and how it must be performed. When you're removed from your cultural identity and given religion, you're not taught this. This is not taught to you. We're giving it back to you as best we can. Let's keep going. So, Troll, are you joining in? Are you joining in, Troll? Is the Troll joining in? Where's he at? Yawo and Vevi, we're not talking about cheese tonight. Okay, I'm not answering that question. That seems very trollish right there, because we're not talking anything about no cheese. You see this? You see, this is what happens, family. At these high times, look who joins the chat. It always happens. I must be hitting on some nerve somewhere in some realm that sends these trolls in here. But we okay. We welcome the trolls, man. Thank you for joining. Thank you for spectating. We appreciate y'all for being here. Have a seat. Join us. Sup with us. And if you want, join the panel and let's talk. Show us your face. Let us hear your voice. If you're bold enough. If not, then you got to go. This only the lions dwell here. This is the lion circle. So if you don't know how to carry yourself amongst this group, then you can go. Because we're going to first treat you with respect and give you a degree of honor. But once you violate that, now we got to chase you out. That's how it works. All right. So virtue, I'm gonna do a lecture on that. But before I do that, I need all of y'all to go back and watch the lecture I did called Meditation by the Book. Admin, moderator, please post that in the chat. I need y'all to watch that first. Shout out to the pretty issue in the building. Kurt, with Critch Coffee. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate that. Please put that in the chat. Yeah, the trolls they're just a distraction, man. Shout out to Gatrell McKinney. Thank you so much for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. Chanel Shalom in the building. Thank you for joining in. Hi friend wants to join in. Y'all let me know. Hit 1 if you want me to let the troll have a discussion, or if you want me to keep going. I got 15-20 minutes. Y'all let me know. Hit 1 if you want me to add the troll. Hit 2 if you want me to keep going. Hit 1 if you want me to add the troll. Hit 2 if you want me to keep going. Okay? Anybody that's interested about the formula for prayer, please watch the lecture on biblical meditation. You need to understand what that is, because you cannot do that and think it's prayer. That has nothing to do with prayer. That is completely separate. All right. So 1, if you want me to join in. 2, if you want me to keep going. So it looks like everybody wants me to add hi friend. All right. Shout out to Fly After Realm. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. So you'll want me to, because we was going in something deep. I didn't even finish yet, because I'm gonna get into what the protective spirit is. And, I was going to get a little bit into the Shadim, which is loosely or badly translated as demons. And that's completely wrong, especially if you don't understand the sister cultures of that was surrounding Israel and cognitive Semitic languages. You're going to miss all of that, right? But y'all want me to add the troll. Let me give him an opportunity. Give him 5 minutes to see what he wants to talk about. And then we're going to keep pushing on. I'm going to wrap up. All right. I promise y'all. All right. I'm going to give him an opportunity, but please don't waste your time, because if you come in here talking crazy and you're wasting these people's time, they will be all over you. Okay. You ain't going to be able to hide nowhere. They're going to be all over you. Don't disrupt this time, because we're really giving out some good information to edify the family. Okay. Whether they agree with it or not. All right. Y'all saying just leave the troll alone. Terry Douglas said, you don't believe in demons. What I'm saying is, I don't want to give away the lecture, but I've done extensive study into ancient Near Eastern cultures, and what we call the Bible or the Old Testament Tanakh is part of that. And through this survey, I was able to parse through information in regards to what can be termed as a demon. And going into ancient Kemet, going into Canaan, to Israel, looking at archaeology, other older papyri, tablets with cuneiform and Akkadian culture, Babylonian culture, Assyrian culture, I understood what this idea of the Shadim is. And it's not what this Greco-Roman depiction of them are. See, what happens is there are certain entities that are border crosses that can only enter into the mind when it is in the theta state of sleep, right? Or your REM state of sleep. And it's during this period of time in which the subconscious is flushing, purging, and neurons that are firing off and finishing up certain things is now opening up to another realm where you can now interface with these entities, and these entities are able to manifest themselves in a form, what we call nightmares, night terrors, bad dreams, whatever. And then when you wake up and you take that imagination, because it's coming from your mind, and you place that on paper, what you're doing is you're manifesting the presence of that entity into reality. So really what you're doing is you are bringing forth these adversarial spirits by, number one, engaging in cultural practices and performing certain customs of other ethnic groups that have nothing to do with you or your ancestral practices. Number two, you disturbing the dead, because especially in ancient Kemet, these border crosses, they were very fierce in protecting those who died. And when the dead is disturbed, then you activate these entities to actually afflict you. And this is why certain ailments were attributed to certain Necharu. But in order for the Necharu to be engaged, there had to be intermediaries. So when you stir up the dead, or when you stir up practices that should only be performed by certain priests or certain people who have bloodline ties to those customs, now you are introducing these elements. And now in your dreams, because your dreams are inspired by what you take in and any kind of external stimuli, whether it's movies or music or experiences, these things are now active in the subconscious when you're asleep. The subconscious plays it out, and it opens up a gateway for these entities to come and interface with you. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, this is what was believed. You bring these things into existence by your actions. That's why in America, we don't learn to tread lightly when we amalgamate all these customs and practices and watching different things, and we don't understand even a tenth of what it is that we're engaging in. You don't even know how to protect yourself as a proactive measure when you engage these things. They have no respect for these things at all. But Hi Friend is waiting. So let's let the troll in. I want to keep going, but let's let the troll in. All right? I'm going to let the troll in. Make it easy for you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Okay? Let me drop the link in the chat. Terry Douglas, border crosses exist. Demons are imaginative entities that you invoked, or that is invoked from the subconscious realm and brought into the conscious realm. And when you draw these things, you manifest them. This is why Israel was told not to create any graven images, because what happens is you take the imagination of the subconscious, you bring it into the conscious realm, you draw it, and when you manifest it, you are etching what is called a um sigil. And when you create a sigil, what you're doing is now you're invoking these entities to manifest. And you can go and research that if you want, but I would tread very lightly on that, right? But here's the link. So, hi, friend, click on the link. Do not waste our time, because if you waste our time, you're going to get torn up. They're going to tear you up. That's all I'm going to say. The link is right there. Click on the link, join in, and let's dialogue for a few minutes so I can finish what I'm doing and go to bed, because these people got to go to work tomorrow. So they're trying to eat this good meal before they go to bed, and you're interrupting by ringing the doorbell. Okay? So we're going to wait. So Aldrich Dow, that is the New Testament. And unless you have a foundation in the Tanakh and the intertestamental periods and what was influencing the people at that time, again, these afflictive spirits is nothing that is new. I mentioned to you in ancient Kemet, they had certain spells. If you go to DivineProspect, certain spells that when scientific surgery and herbs or whatever did not work, now they had to place certain spells to cast away these spirits. There's nothing new. This is nothing new. But what I'm saying is you have to really understand what is taking place. And I want to slowly walk you through all these things to go back and research. Don't take my word for it. So, hi, friend, we're waiting for you. No. Kufu Kafre, a sigil, Sigil. Shout out to Dorf L in the building. Matsuad and Meth Da'ath in the building. You got to go to work at 6. My brother Aldrich, get some sleep, man. This will be here tomorrow. It'll be here tomorrow, man. Sigil's there. All right. Henry, if you want to join, you can. I highly doubt High Friend is going to get on here, show his face, and talk whatever he's been saying. I highly doubt that. If he does, then okay. I said the link is there. I'll put the link in again for y'all. All right. Here's the link. But again, please do not waste our time. Now, I also have a debate coming up against 3 Israelites. It's me against 3 Israelites in regards to this term hell and what hell actually is. They don't really agree with my position on hell. So I welcome all 3 of them to have a team debate against me. All right. So that's coming up soon. Shout out to Cindy. Thank you so much for the emoji and the donation. I truly appreciate that. All right. Sean Fleming, interestingly, yes. I've seen it before because I work with computers. So I've seen that before. It's really eerie, but I don't want to speculate and assume, right? Because I don't know the designer who blueprinted it. So I can't say that's what he was purposely doing, but they do look like that. I would bring up some sigils on the screen, but I don't want to do so, and then somebody does something with it irresponsibly. All right. So I don't want to be held liable for that. You can look up what a sigil is and do your own research. Okay. Kufu Kafre. Yeah, if you got a question, you can ask me a question. Aldrich, I'll keep the video up. I got you. I'll keep the video up. All right. All right. So I don't see nobody joining in. So I'm about to wrap everything up. I'm about to wrap discussion up. I don't see nobody joining in. All right. And I'm trying to finish this before the 2-hour mark. Okay. I got 16 minutes before the 2-hour mark. So y'all not joining in. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay. And I think that's what the majority wants me to do anyway. All right. All right. Okay, that's the link again. So let's keep going. All right. Emily Broussard Govan says Psalm 91. Thank you so much for keeping me on point. Oh, hold on. Somebody joined in. All right. Who just joined? Henry, you there? Henry, can you hear me? Henry, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes. Okay, good, good. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Oh, so do you just have audio on? Is that it? Okay, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
All right. All right, family. So I just invited Henry Campbell. Is that your name?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for joining in, Henry. All right, Henry. So I'm gonna give you about a minute or two. You can say what you want, or you can ask a question, whatever the case may be. The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I want to say I am not a troll. I've been following your work for a long time, and yeah, I'm 21 years old, and I'm in college right now. I'm in here in Atlanta as well, and due to your research and a lot of things you've done, I've gone heads up with professors in the college, and because of the facts you've had, I've been able to hold my own against them. So just want to thank you for that. And please continue to have or continue to give us information. I mean, it's mind blowing. Plus, a lot of the books that you recommend from your lectures, I always read them because I have access to the library at my school, so they have all of those books that you recommend, such as like when you did a lecture about the 10 tribes in West Africa, like the Arabic sources and certainly the things about the Igbo culture and different things like that. So I just want to say thank you and helping me to get rid of a lot of dogma that I had believed in before.
Cool,
So
cool. Now, I've seen you in the chat a lot, so I don't see you as the troll. When you come in here, you always give good feedback. And all praise to the Most High. I'm glad that I can contribute something positive to your life. And I would love through your research if you can also share information with me as well. You can email me if you need contact information, anything like that, and I'll make sure I give it to you. You said you're here locally in Atlanta as well, correct?
yeah, I'm in Live in College Park.
Okay. Have you been to Emory University?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I
so
attend Georgia State.
Georgia State. Okay. When you get a chance, go ahead and visit Emory and their library. They have a lot of books. So when it comes to search engines or SEOs or search engines, there are three layers of searches that can be done, right? You have what's called the general web, you have what's called the dark web, and you have what's called the deep web. Okay. So your general web is your Google, your Bing, your Yahoo search. You type something in there, and what it's going to do is survey the internet for public facing sites that have keywords that things can be picked up. When you go into the deep web, typically those are things that cannot be searchable through a generic general search engine like Google or Bing. And actually, you can access some of those. Like if you have credentials for a particular university, you can go onto the university's website and you can access documents and certain books and PDFs that you generally cannot search for by looking in the general Google search or Bing search. And then you have what's called the deep web. And the deep web is only peer-to-peer sites, right? You'd have to get a Tor-based client in order for you to reach out to those particular sites. And, those sites I would, always caution people to deal with very carefully, because there's a lot of information that you can uncover on those sites that is illegal. They are monitored. Most of them, some of them are not. But when you go at least on the deep web and you learn where to search, and sometimes you have to physically go get certain books that's out of that's not no longer published. in universities, because I remember back in 2015, I spent a lot of time at Emory because a friend of mine was going to school there. And man, I was taking hours and hours just going through books that I could not find anywhere. I couldn't find them on Amazon. I couldn't find ebooks for them, and I was just reading a lot of material. So even at GSU, again, I had another friend, several people that went to school there as well. They also have good books. But the reason why I bring up Emory is because let me show you something real quick. If you're looking at the screen, I want to show you something that's going down at Emory right now. So anybody that is in Atlanta or wants to visit Atlanta, I want you to take a look at this real quick. Let me take a let me show you this real quick. All right. All right, here we go. Let me pull it up on my screen. And I appreciate you for calling or chiming in, Henry. You're always welcome. Just let me know. I'll post a link. You could jump in if you ever want to share anything, or if you ever want to, give some insight or ask a question. So,
there are certain questions that I'd like to ask, if that's okay.
Well,
after you're done showing me.
Yeah. So I'm gonna show you this real quick. I'll let you can ask one question only because I want to transition and just wrap up. Because the troll didn't show up, so that's good. I can finish. Let me just show you this real quick, as you may be interested in it. Even though I would suggest everybody, if you can, go to Emory to see this, it would be great. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. I'm gonna add a mic. Okay. So for everybody that's looking at my screen, this here is going down at Emory University. I plan to go there soon so I can capture all of this and bring it back to y'all. But if you see here, it's called Documenting Slave Voyages. Led by Emory, a massive digital memorial shines new light on one of the most harrowing chapters of human history, right? And as you go through, it goes on for African-American families seeking clues to their ancestry. The task often too stymied by a history that defies documentation. In fact, the drive towards discovery frequently ends abruptly with the scant record keeping that surrounds the American slave trade. People kept as property with names simply lost to history. So when Henry Louis Gates works with guests on the acclaimed PBS program, Finding Your Roots, whose family stories have been obscured by slavery, he routinely looks for clues where in Emory University Slave Voyages, the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database. Now, this right here, this database right here that you can look into. Let me do transatlantic, right? Because there's also intra-American slave trades as well. So, there's our brothers out there that's in camps that say, oh, certain slaves, certain tribes of Israel were dropped off into certain, places or whatever. It's really interesting because you start to see that there was a lot of intra-American slave trade that was going on, where certain groups of people from certain islands or South America or Central America was brought to North America, right? But let me show you this database real quick here. So if you go here to slave voyages, and some people may already be familiar with this, the entity that's responsible for actually spearheading this project is Emory University. And if you actually go to the university, they have an entire area where they deal with this particular subject matter. Okay. And I've looked through all of these databases. You get and a lot of people may be familiar with this too, the African names database, when people were doing the theophoric names. I know I also did the theophoric names tracing as well. But this will be, if you're in Atlanta, anybody that's visiting Atlanta, you can check out the website to get some information. But it's even better if you actually go to Emory and actually get your own face-to-face personal interaction with their documented slave voyages campaign program that's going on. So I just wanted to share that with you. But go ahead, you can definitely ask your question, my brother.
I'm trying to think how to word this. Okay, so I've watched all your videos as far as how to calculate the holy days, and as far as the moon phase that we use. I understand about the equinox and about the full moon. I understand everything about that. The only question I have is, so the equinox determines a year, and basically the equinox determines a year, and the moon determines a month. So what if the full moon is like a day before the equinox? So it's
Mm-hmm.
going for that's going to happen in 2022
Mm-hmm.
and 2030, I believe. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be like 1 or 2 days before the equinox.
Mm-hmm.
So would you count that full moon as a first
Mm-hmm.
moon or the first month, or would you wait until the next month? Because if you wait till the next month, Passover is going to fall to like May.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's basically my question.
Excellent question. So I want to start off by saying there are two main calendars that I follow. Currently, I follow the civil calendar, which is also known as a Gregorian calendar for civil duties, because I actually have to operate in this society. I work, I have business appointments, family appointments, stuff like that that I do in this society. So I still use that as a civil calendar. Now, when it comes to calculating the feast days, I use what I called a sacerdotal calendar. Sacerdotal just means a priestly calendar, which is the ancient pre-exilic form. And that particular calendar only accounts for 8 months. And those 8 months contain all the feast days. And that menological model is imposed on top of the civil calendar. Okay. Now, the reckoning for time for that, and you've mentioned it, is six major items that you utilize in order for you to triangulate um, when the feast day is supposed to, or the count begins for the feast day. One of those elements you have mentioned it, which would be the spring equinox, right? Because you also have the equilux that precedes the equinox, but we
Hmm.
choose the equinox specifically because of its positioning over what we call the zenith line, or people may say its position over the equator.
Hmm.
About 7 days after the equilux, right? Equilux means equal day and night.
Hmm.
That's number one. The second thing would be the sidereal year, right? Which would be your star constellations, right?
Hmm.
Which change every 2,600 years. Okay, so the one that we see now that aligns with the spring equinox is not
It's
what Moshe
Pisces.
saw. Correct. It's not what Moshe saw during his time period. Okay, but it's also an indicator when that season is coming in. The next things we will look at is the weather. So you can either look at localized weather trends, or you can look to see the weather trends that are going on in Israel, where Israel has a rainy season, a wintry rainy season that occurs from, I would say, late October, November, all the way into March. And during that time is the high time of actually sowing into the earth. So that way, when the rain ceases, they can actually reap the benefits from what they've sown. But there's also local crops or what's called wild crops that are not sown or intervened, have an intervenous mean of sowing by man, but happens naturally from the earth, right?
Hmm.
Then you got to look at the animal migrations that are coming in, especially the birds, which the scriptures speak about, and also the mating season for these animals, such as the Jenny, which is also mentioned in the scriptures as well. So once you go through the crops, once you go through the weather, once you go to the migrations and mating of animals that are coming in what we call the spring, once you look at the sidereal year and you look at this the spring equinox with the sun, then the next phase would be looking at the moon and determining which moon phase are you going to call the new moon, right? So based on that model that I shared, the new moon is the full moon, which you are aware of. Your question is saying that if the full moon comes in right before the equinox, do you utilize that full moon to start the count for that model? Or do you wait till after the equinox is here before you say, okay, I'm gonna start counting, which would technically be almost a whole month later, right? So
Right.
all of that would be based upon the other five factors, right? So we had the equinox, which is really close to the moon. We know the sidereal year is going to be right there, right? The star constellation is already going to be there. So we have to look at the terrestrial signs, right? Those are the three celestial signs. The terrestrial signs would be, okay, let me look in nature. And this is how you naturally intercalate, right? Because anybody that uses a pure moon calendar, you're going to be off 10 plus days, right? And then what happens is you have to add an extra month, which according to the Jewish calendar is Adar 2, in order to resynchronize the timing or the reckoning of time, so that way things can be back in alignment with the seasons. So with this priestly, ancient pre-exilic metallurgical model, because it's only based on 8 months, you're going to look at the terrestrial signs. If there are certain birds that are late coming into the land during that time, then you'll be able to say, you know what, let's wait another 30 days, right? So everything is in sync before we go forth. The next thing is looking at the wild crops, right? You can do natural crops, but look at the wild crops. Are they budding? Are they green in the air or ready to be plucked at this time? The wild crops, those animal meanings, and look at the weather. Looking at the sky, say, look, is the rainy season still here? Is precipitation still heavy the way it's normally measured during this time of the year? Is it lighter than usual? Is it actually gone? Are we still entrenched in it? Those other signs will help you to determine whether or not you should begin with that full moon that precedes the equinox by day, or if you need to intercalate or add some time for all of those signs to be there before you begin your journey. Now, if you decide to do your 30 days, after the equinox, your point is saying that you're going to be performing this, Passover late. Well, Passover is important because Passover is during the spring season. Now, if we was to transition away from spring into another season, we would have a problem. But luckily, the season gives us approximately 3 months before we transition into another season in temperament environments, right? There's other environments, tropical environments, where you may not have the same change in seasons, right? But you also have things in an environment, in a tropical environment, that will also let you know what time of the year it is. There's other environmental factors, right? So I would say, as long as you're there in the spring season, even if it's an additional, I would say 29 and a half days, which is going to be your synodic month. I would say that is still within the safe boundary, safe realm, because the feasts have to be done before the 8th month, which is Bull. If anything goes into the 8th month, then we have a problem. So you may have to look at a projection of, if I started a month in, will I be going past the month of Bull? Because everything needs to be done before that 8th month, because that 8th month singles when the wintry season starts to begin and when the heavy rains in Israel starts. So it needs to be performed before that month. So with that information as a template, you can then use, your own, I said, mental resources to determine whether or not when it should begin or start. So when I come across that during that time of the year, I will speak specifically on that, because that's an excellent question. And we will look at these terrestrial and celestial factors in order to determine, should we intercalate or should we begin? And we can go into that. But like I said, that's just information to share with you as a template, and you can pretty much build it out from there.
Okay, thank you. Do you have time for one more question, or you?
Will you be able to save it for tomorrow? Because I'm going live tomorrow too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so just write it down or email it to me so you don't forget it, and I'll address it for you tomorrow, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Anytime, my brother. Thank you so much for chiming in, and I look forward to having you on again, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. All right. So I appreciate my brother Henry for joining in. Let me finish up, family, because it's late. Man, y'all are still in the chat. What's going on, man? Okay, so let me get back on track. Okay, let me get back on track. Hold on one second. Let's get back on track. All right. So let's finish up. Let's go to Psalm 91, and I'm gonna finish this up and explain to you why this Gaelic festival that was performed by the Celts, we should not engage it. Here's my question: do you guys know what Gaelic even means? Go back and watch that video. Shout out to Orain Forrest for the donation. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. The reason why I'm saying this is because if you don't understand that culture, why are you still in practices and you're not even aware of what the ramifications are? Most people can't even tell you the origin of jack-o'-lantern. You know why? Because they didn't start with the pumpkin. And they didn't start here in America. The Native Americans were not doing no jack-o'-lantern. Don't be fooled. Okay? All right, let's digress. Psalm 91. Let's get into Psalm 91. Then I'm gonna get into Elijah and the prophets of Baal and explain to you what happened in regards to that. And then from there, we're gonna go transition into why keeping the feast is important. So for Israelites, all the feasts have already been completed. So now, traditionally speaking, culturally speaking, this is the season to sow. Let me say it again. When you are feasting, when you are harvesting, that is your season to pull from what is there, the plenty that is there, the manifold that Yah has provided. The physical gives you the template on how to perform things spiritually. So now we're in this season. You know, Christians said all the time, oh, this is the season to reap. Well, no, that didn't begin with them. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 tells you there's a time to sow, a time to reap. So our reaping season is over. This is the season to sow. We cannot perform that in the land because we're not in the land. But here, since we're still Yah's possession, we still have the capability to sow things now. What are you sowing in this season? You see, the feast days are there to get you back into the circadian rhythm of how you need to operate, how the physiology of your body needs to be in alignment with the natural phenomenon in your environment, which by proxy connects you to the divine. Too many of y'all are trying to reap in a sowing season. Too many of y'all are trying to sow during a reaping season. When Ecclesiastes said there's a time to do this and time to do that, is the template there in the text on when to do what and when not to do what? Yes, it's there. Are we making these things relational so that way they can be contemporaneous to our modern day situations and we can yield the result that the ancestors yielded? Shout out to Reckless Animosity for the donation. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, my brother. Are we doing that? But let's continue. So now that our set apart periods of time, our Moedim has passed, this is now the season of sowing. But yet in this season, there are other groups that are trying to reap. When you go to Christmas, they're doing nothing but reaping in Christmas. Everybody wants gifts. Everybody's giving gifts. And why are you even giving gifts? Why are you giving gifts? Whose cultural practice is that you've misappropriated? See, we don't question the things that we do. We presuppose that it's okay. We don't question it. We don't question it. And therefore, we get more confused. And that's the problem. When you see people come into the Israelite culture and they fade out, it's because they don't get to this depth. They don't have the roots. They don't have the deep dug wells that they're filling in. So when the dry season comes, they have something they can dig into. And that's what happens. There are too many leaders that are surface level teachers, and they're not diving into these depths in order to give the people enough drink for the dry season. See, when you study the Bedouin culture, you understand how to survive in an environment that's designed to kill you. You learn a lot of life lessons from that. But let me digress. Shout out to Ken Lucas in the building, Living Proof in the building, Cornbread, what's going on? Thank y'all for participating in the chat, for joining in. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. If you're liking the content, share this video. And if you want to give, you can do a super chat or do by any other means there on the screen. And our Patreon is there as well if you want to consistently give so you can be what they call a blessing. I don't even like using that word blessing because Christians have just taken it and just destroyed it. But so that you can give enough good fortune to those who cannot afford it. And that's exactly what we want to do. All right. So let's finish up what we're saying. So Psalms 91, I'm going to finish up what I'm saying. Yes, I know I said a lot of stuff that I could probably go in hours on, but let me hone in because I'm past the 2-hour mark And I want to cut this short so that when people go back to replay it, they're not afraid because of the length of the video. Because for some reason, some people tell me that that's an issue. Some other people said, no, you can go on for hours. It's like a mixed bag, right? So I have to try to cater to everybody that's trying to watch this so they can get something out of it, right? But people go and pay movies to watch movies that's 2.5 hours, 3 hours long, and complain when they got to watch something educational. I try to make it interesting, but I mean, it is what it is. So Psalm 91, let's get into Psalm 91. How can you activate these protective spirits that are also called ancestors from other cultures? Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's go to Psalm 91. Can't give you all the formula right now. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, follow us, and then you'll be able to get the dibs on when we release this. Also, to my Patreon subscribers, you're going to get a lot of dibs first, okay? Patreon subscribers is going to get a lot of dibs first because they are the ones that's allowing these services to be offered for free. Debt elimination, health consultation, community improvement programs. I mean, when you purchase merchandise, or donate for merchandise, or you pledge, or you give in a super chat, you are helping everybody else who cannot afford these things. Okay. That funds are going to R&D, and it's also going towards helping other people who cannot afford things. So now we can just give help for free. And that's our goal. That's what we want to do. But it costs money in order to do these things, right? It costs money because time, energy, and effort is being sacrificed so these things can be given out. Right. So you guys are helping tremendously, and I greatly appreciate that. So let's go to Psalm 91. Let's wrap this thing up. OK, Psalm 91. So Psalm 91 goes, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to Yod-Heh-Wafe, my refuge and my fortress, my power, Eloheh-Ka, in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. So slow down. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. That is an idiom. Very deep. Don't have a lot of time to exegete it now. But look at the next verse. When you are operating in that capacity, you will say, my refuge and my fortress, Eloheh-Ka, my power in whom I trust. This declaration must be made after you are in the shelter and in the shadow of the Almighty. These are prerequisites. And when this is performed, then he will deliver you. Why will he? He can only deliver you if you are abiding in his provisionary borders. If you're outside the boundaries and you're outside of his shadow of protection, when the sun hits you, you can't complain. You have not retreated to the shadow of the Almighty. You have not gotten into the shelter of the Most High. You have not declared he is your refuge. He is your fortress and your power, who you will put your trust. So when these prerequisites are performed, then he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. You know why? Because now when you're in his shelter, when you're in his shadow, whenever there's something dangerous that's coming to attack you, it is out of its jurisdiction. Therefore, the Most High can now intervene. But if you do not follow Torah, the instructions that he has given you in a living template that can still be applied today if you know how to do it, then he is not in covenant with you and he is not obligated to do these things. Let's keep going. He will cover you from his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is the shield and a buckler. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Now think about this culture. You got to put yourself back in time and look at these things. At night was a very terrible thing. You didn't have a lot of protection at night during this time period. You didn't have this artificial light like we do today and all this technology. Night was very scary, especially if you was traveling on a road outside the city. You can get robbed. You can get eaten by wild animals. You can get trapped. You can get snared. You can get bit. Anything can happen to you. Anything. So think about it. And it says the arrows that flies by day. An archer can only shoot a perfect shot during the day. And the archer is skilled enough, he can hit you from anywhere. But when you are in the safe provisional protective boundaries of the patron deity that you have a contract with, then you will receive your salvation. Okay. Virtue, if you're interested in the shirts, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. And we will send you an email with all that information. Thank you so much for wanting to patronize our merchandise, okay? So let me wrap this up. So look at this. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. Let's keep going. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near to you. You'll see people dying from all types of crazy diseases because their diet sucks. And you have the med diet, which you've applied. Go back and watch that lecture I did in New Orleans. That is a powerful lecture. How I show you how the med diet can cure the number one ailment of African Americans in America. And that med diet is encapsulated in the text. Okay, you'll go back and check that out. But let's keep going. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. So now your vision, your oversight into things is going to change because you're going to have understanding, because you're going to be doing so from a position of protection and provision. Because you have made Yah your dwelling place. Listen to this. The Most High, who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you. No plague can come near your tent. Remember, at that time, they were in tents before they actually were no longer nomadic, and they actually were sedentary, where they then created their 4-room house structures because they were egalitarian society before the monarchy came on the scene. That's another conversation. But watch this. For he will command. So wait. So now you have instructions in verse 1 and 2. You have exhortation in verses 3 to 6. You have edification and empowerment and confidence in verses 7 and 8. And verses 9 to 10 is additional exaltation of the protection and provision. But now going to verse 11, when you are fulfilling the prerequisites, now for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion, the serpent, you will trample underfoot. Now, your tutelary spirits comes into verse 11. That is an ancient pre-exilic Israelite understanding that was lost through Second Temple Judaism. Okay, so look, let's keep going. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. So these tutelary spirits, as some people say is the ancestors or whatnot, these entities are there. Ki malakah yesawe lach lis mareka bekal de rakeka. For this, the messengers, his messengers, because you have the suffix there, his messengers, he will give the charge to them. Wow, that's deep. He will give your savah, your savah. He will give the savah. He will lay a charge, give a command, give an order to these messengers to keep you in all your ways. All these tutelary spirits keeping you, or have you rejected it because you are following Second Temple Judaism and or Christianity, which has disconnected you from your ancestral capabilities, abilities, powers, and authority. You've been divided from that. You've been removed from that. You have so much more potential that you can't tap into because dogma has locked you down and locked you out. This information is designed to edify and liberate you. Okay. All right. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody. Please hit 1 if you want me to keep going. If not, I'll just end it off right here. I just got 2 more points to make and I'm signing off. If this is edifying, if this is something that you enjoyed, hit the 1 button so I know, so I can keep going. Also, I want y'all to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and share this video. All right? Hit 1 if you want me to keep going. Let me know. Hit 1. Hit 1, and I'll wrap it up. See, when people hear, oh, Divine talking about this ancient priest, Israelite, they don't understand it. So therefore, they defame it. Therefore, they demonize it. Therefore, they talk against it. I'm not telling y'all to imitate. Remember, we saw that. Imitate or follow the ways of the other nation. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you to go back into your culture, not the religion. The religion is watered down crack. That's what it is. That's the stuff that they push through the black community. But the elitists, they sniff the pure cocaine and go to work the next day and don't have family members that are strung out. You see? And I know that might be a bad analogy. But the point I'm trying to make is they want to water down the potency of what you can get access to. They want to show you how to make aimless prayers without showing you the formula of appeal, and to know that you are asking the judge to overrule a ruling, to intervene. Okay. Let's keep going. So when he gives them charge over you, in their hand, they should bear it. You remember, for those of you who subscribe to the Hadashah, the so-called New Testament, where Yeshua was being tempted by Hashatan, the adversary, and the adversary said to him, well, throw yourself down if you're the son of, well, we're all the sons of the Most High. So he understood that if you still have this protection. See, when you don't understand okay, look at this. Watch this. Those of you who deal with the New Testament, I know y'all deal with the New Testament, right? Let me show you that this did not disappear. Wait a second. You know when Yeshua said that he had commanded thousands of messengers to come and do certain things, and this was based on a pre-exilic Israelite cultural practice that he still abided by. But yet Christians don't do this today, especially your Protestant Christians. Your Catholic Christians, they do, but they pray to saints, which are watchers or border crossers for another egregore. Okay, wait a second. Hold on. Mikhail Woodard, how you doing, my brother? I put you on as an admin because you do a good job of doing that, but I do touch on Melchizedek heavy in a lecture called Capital Punishment, Human Sacrifice for the Atonement of Sin in the Bible. Please go back and check that lecture out. There's another lecture called Are All Sins Created Equal? Go watch both of those videos. Chris, drop those links in the chat. Check those videos out. I talked about Melchizedek, or do a search with Melchizedek and my name, and there's other videos that I touched on the Melchizedek order as well. You can go back and check it on that. But let me finish wrapping this up, all right? Because I think somebody needs this. Somebody needs this. All right. So let's go to the New Testament real quick. The so-called New Testament, right? Let's go to the New Testament real quick. Let's go to Luke chapter 4. Well, actually, excuse me, Matthew chapter 4. Matthew, you know, that is my primary synoptic gospel that I rock with, right? Matthew chapter 4, verse 6. Well, verse 5 says, then the adversary took him to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple. He said to him, if you are the son of Elohim, he said, throw yourself down, for it is written. Why is he making an allusion or a reference to a pre-exilic practice if that was done away with? Why the disciples casting lots in Acts chapter 1? Why, when they saw Yeshua, Eliyahu, and Moshe, they decided to build booths or tabernacles or shrines? Okay, let me stop. He will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Yeshua replied, it is also written, do not put Adonai Eloheka to the test. Do not put your master, your power to the test. Because that's not how that works. There are prerequisites, and those prerequisites do not come with ego and pride. He was trying to get him to disavow or violate the prerequisites in order for this to take place. There's a reason why he referenced this, because it's a pre-exilic practice. See, Christians don't see this. They don't see this. They don't know the significance of this. When you don't understand that ancient pre-exilic Israelite culture, you will be disconnected from things like this when you see it in the text. All I'm trying to do is restore it to you, my family, because I care about y'all and I love y'all. Y'all need to hear this. Y'all need to hear this. So wrapping it up, the reason why those prophets of Baal were unable to get those entities to fight on their behalf is because those entities had no jurisdiction with Elijah there. Elijah was still in active covenant with his patron deity, keeping all the prerequisites and Torah that he was instructed. Even in his fear, he did not lose his relationship. So he understood that the Baalim are the deities of another entity that has no jurisdiction in the presence of those who are walking uprightly before the Most High. The Baal, some say maybe Baal Hadad or several Baals, did not have authority or jurisdiction to act. That's why he said, hey, they're not speaking. Are they deaf? Or are they dumb? Or they're on a vacation? What's going on? He understood that because Elijah was operating under the patron deity and these other prophets, Israelite prophets, were worshiping these Baals of another entity, they have not gone through all the rites of passage in order for them to activate these deities. But now you're in the presence of an individual who is keeping Torah and that's connected with the Most High. He's able to demonstrate Yah's power. They cannot. So those people who are out there, who are keeping Halloween, who are pressuring you to keep these feast days of the world, because I told you, whoever's calendar that you follow that leads you to their feasts, they control you. That biological clock that you have in your body, they control it. Me abiding by the civil calendar, because I'm still here in America, it has thrown off and shifted my natural, divine circadian rhythm, biological clock. The melatonin count in my body has been destroyed through artificial light, through a schedule that starts from daytime to night instead of night to day. This is deep. You're supposed to rest first before you do work. There's a reason why that order was performed for that culture. So the point I'm trying to make is the least you can do is refrain from giving power to these egregore holidays and restore the power back to the patron deity who has covenanted with your forefathers. So you can activate that power once again. So when you're in the presence of those who look like you, who act like they have some kind of power, authority, or sway or influence, and they may be tempting you to do certain things, when you keep that covenant and everything that comes along with that covenant, whatever entities that they're serving can have no power over you. Okay. All right. Want to go in further, family, but I'm going to stop here. Hope you enjoyed that session. Go back and research everything that I said to you. All I'm doing is lighting the way. You got to walk it. Okay? It's not much hand holding that I can do. This is your journey. All I'm here to do is just point the way. You got to take it from there. All right. So, family, thank you so much. I'm glad that y'all enjoyed this session. I know it was a little over 2 hours, and I was trying to avoid that. So I apologize for that. Please, if you missed it, if you came in late, this video will be up. Go back and revisit it. Share it with everybody you know. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit subscribe. You can also give donations as shown on the screen. Follow me in other forms of social media. But please keep me in your prayers, family. And when I teach y'all how to do the prayers, people say, oh, keep me in your prayers. But what kind of prayer do you pray on behalf of somebody else? Have you ever been given the formula or are you doing things out of imitation? So let me show you this, family, right? How many of y'all have a 9-to-5 job, right? And you ever been on a 9-to-5 job and they line you up with somebody to train you, and that person who trains you, they're showing you procedures based on how they do it and not by the book. And then you so happen to imitate that. And in the process, you start to miss certain things and then you get in trouble for it. It's because the company can only hold you to what is written in their laws and bylaws and their best practices. As long as you abide by the best practices, laws and bylaws, and the SOPs and KBAs on how to perform something, then there's nothing that they can say against you. They have to go against the one who wrote the process, who wrote the steps, who wrote the laws, the bylaws, the policy, etc. But you are protected. But if you've never taken time to actually read these things, to understand what is the conceptual basis for why this policy, this procedure, this practice has been put in place, and you simply just imitate somebody else who can care less about it, you will be disconnected from the potential that you can tap into and the protection that comes along with that by simply trying to understand the mechanical workings as to why this was written the way it was written. Why it must be followed a particular way in a particular order and format. It may not be directly beneficial to you, but for the company that's contracted you, it's going to benefit it. So we are obliged to understand this so-called heritage at this minute level by surveying the text, parsing out things again, reevaluating our presuppositions, purging the dogma, and following that ancient path. And once you grab hold of it, find a way to take that ancient path and lead it to your contemporary ways today. You can activate this. It's yours by birthright. Not for you to be entitled and inflated egos, but once you're into and you're dwelling into the shelter of the Most High and in the shadow of the Almighty, these things are yours for the taking. So with that, family, much love. Thank you for joining in. I wasn't even planning to go this deep, but so be it. Shout out to Myron Henderson, who was here as well. I don't know if I shout you out. Myron, yes, there's a lot of scriptures on that. Judges chapter 11 is one of them. Okay. And the Moabite Stella is an extra biblical reference, but check that out as well. Okay. Yes, Rodney, SOP is standard operating procedures, right? Okay. So with that, family, I appreciate y'all. I spent a lot of energy putting this out. It needed to be done, okay, because of the energy that we're surrounded by during this period of time. This is a peak time for a particular festival, for particular deities and particular groups of people. I'm not telling you to get spooked out about it. All I'm saying is we have to measure this degree of energy with whatever Yah has given us. And you cannot pour from an empty vessel. So make sure that you have others that are pouring into you before you can pour out into them. And y'all have been doing that. And I appreciate y'all for that. All right. So shout out to Don Terry. So peace and shalom, family. Thank you for watching. If I have enough strength, I'm going to do Freestyle Friday tomorrow. Y'all keep me in your prayers. Please continue to send your support my way. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, my brother Henry, for joining in on the panel as well. And I will see y'all again, family. All right. Peace and shalom.